Okay, let's talk through the problem. And me talking through the problem, I'm also going to be looking at the key as I do it, emphasizing that that's the way you study. You look at an answer key, and you try to figure out where they're getting these things. So the first one to say the sum of six numbers in an arithmetic progression is 36. So I'm going to say, the first number in the arithmetic series, I'm just going to call it, A1 would be equal to X. And I clearly see that. All right? Whoops, sorry about that. I clearly see that right over there. And then the question is, what are you going to do next? Well, if that's the first number in the arithmetic progression, what's the next number going to be? Well, it's going to be X plus D. So what I would write down is, I would write down 36 is equal to X plus the next number, X plus D, plus the next number, which is X plus 2D, plus the next number, which is X plus 3D, plus the next number, which is X plus 4D, plus the next number, which is X plus 5D. All right? So, part of writing that down is just realize how many terms you got. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. And if you added all those terms together, what would you get? Well, just counting the x's up, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's. And if you count all the d's up, excuse me, 5 plus 4 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12, 12 plus 2 is 14, 14 plus 1 is 15. So 15 Ds. All right? So let me just outline where this is in the key. I wrote this down here, and I wrote this down over here. So I'm going to say, it's good news that I'm getting those steps. All right? Now the question is, you might not be able to get the next step or the next step, but at least you're going forward. All right? So I'm at this stage over here. I understand exactly what they've written down. Exactly. Then the question is, what would you do with that? Well, I got a pretty simple statement over here. So 36 equals 6x plus 15d. Well, there's one of two things you could do with that. You could either solve for x or solve for d. All right? So you may say, I don't know what to do with that, but you could solve for x or solve for d. Now, if you solve, before I do that, I think I could divide both sides by 3. And what would you get over here? 12 equals 2x plus 5d. Again, you could either solve for x or solve for d. So I'm looking at it. Let me just solve for x. I'm so used to doing that. Let me just do that. What do you get? You would get, let's say, 2x is equal to 12 minus 5d. And then you could divide both sides by 2, and you would get 12 minus 5d over 2. All right? Now, am I seeing that? Of course I am. It's right over here. Whoops. I'm seeing it. Now, by the way, that may not be useful. All right? It's just written down. I know where they got it from, but again, it may not be useful. Let me erase this business over here. I'm kind of done with it. And I got to keep reading the story. And the story is now, it goes on to say, and the sum of their squares is 286. A little more difficult. So if I were to write that down, the sum of the squares, let me write this down for you. 286, that would be x squared plus x plus d squared plus x plus 2d squared plus x plus 3d squared plus x plus 4d squared. You know what? I'm jamming it. I got to write. That's not looking good. Let's write that over again. 286 x squared plus x plus d squared plus x plus 2d squared plus x plus 3d squared plus x plus 4d squared plus x plus 5d squared plus x plus, let me see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going too far. 6 terms, right? And what would I do over there? I guess I try to simplify. All right, so what do you get? 286. It's not that bad. X squared plus the next term when I square it out would be x squared plus 2dx plus d squared. I'm going to start to line things up now. So x squared plus 4dx plus 4d squared. The next term would be x squared plus 6dx plus 9d squared. The next term would be x squared plus 8dx plus 16d squared. Yeah, it's a lot of writing. Kind of, maybe not running out of room, but it's getting kind of crazy. I probably could just know the pattern to it at this point. So x plus 10dx plus 25d squared. Well, you know what? I could add that all together. And what would you get? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6x squared. That's done. And then I'm going to do these d things over here, the dx's. 2, 6, 12, 20, 30. So 30 dx. And then get these square things. 25, let's see, 25, 31, 41, 50, 54, 55. All right, so that was a lot of work, but I did get something. What did I get? I got 286 equals 6x squared plus 30, whoops, that's d squared, sorry about that, plus 30 dx plus 55d squared. All right? So what I want to do is look at the k, and I want to see if that's written down somewhere. And it is, right over here. 286 is 6x squared plus 30 dx plus 55d squared. So I'm kind of moving along, and by moving along is you definitely want to continue. I mean, it isn't like, oh, I'll stop now and call it a day. It might be a tough day, but you want to go forward on it. All right? So I got two things, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. And again, I'm just going through a K. And again, I want to emphasize we have these two things now. Now, both of those equations are two equations with two unknowns in it. It would sure be nice to get one equation with one unknown in it. So I want to write that down for you. And I got to be pretty careful with this. So I'm going to write down 286 is equal to 6x squared. Well, here comes the tough part. What's x? It's 12 minus 5d over 2 quantity squared. I got that. What's next going to be? 30 times x. Well, let's put this down. That's going to be 12 minus 5d over 2. Let's see if I did that right. And that's going to, oh, d. I'll put the d down now. So 6x squared, 30xd. I got that. Then 55d squared. All right, here comes the tough part. I got to do that. And it doesn't look pleasant. I guess you could do some things with it, but I'm just going to start doing the arithmetic now. And to do that, I'm going to be careful about it. So I'm going to write down 286 equals, well, 2 on the bottom squared is 4, so it's 6 quarters. And 6 quarters is 3 halves. And then when you get there, well, you'd get 12 minus 5d squared. All right? I'm going to start to erase things as I'm writing them down. I don't need this anymore. I know it's 286. I just said it's equal to, that's 6 quarters, which is 3 halves, 12 minus 5d squared. Let me erase this over here. Again, I'm moving forward. Now, what's the next thing going to be? Let's write this down. Well, 2 goes into 30 15 times. And that's not so bad. And then what do you get over there? Well, let's see. That's going to be 12 minus 5d. And then there's a d. And last one, let's get 55d squared. All right, let me erase this over here. And I got to keep going through it. And going through it, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but I got to get to my next thing. And the next thing is, can I solve that for d? And what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2 now. Which, again, may seem counterproductive to some people, but to me, getting rid of the fraction moves me forward. And let's see, 286 times 2, that's 400, 560, 572. And then you get 3, 12 minus 5d squared plus 30, 12 minus 5d, d, plus, I'm multiplying by 2, right? So 110. All right, let's check, see if I did it right. 2 times 286, 400, 560, 572. 2 times 3 F's is 3. I got that. Then I see this, business with the 30 there. And let's see, 30, 12 minus 5D. Yeah, things are looking like they're going to move forward. I'm going to, again, what I'm doing is I'm moving forward. I'm erasing my past now. I'm going to concentrate on this now. And what do I get now? 572. And I'm going to factor the first two terms. And I see a 3. And I see a 12 minus 5D. Right, I'm factoring the first two terms. First two terms here. And what would you be left off with? And I'll kind of write it down. I pulled a 3 out, a 12 minus 5D. So I'd have 12 minus 5D here. I factored a 3 out and a 12 minus 5D. Well, if you factor it, you'd just be left with 10D, right? And this is going to be 1110D squared. All right, so you might say, I'm going to look at that and I'm going to do something now. I'm not saying you can't do something now, but I want to make sure that it's understood that I did the first two terms. I just factored it. I'm kind of done with that now. I'm looking at this now. I'm going to continue to simplify it, and I'm moving step by step forward. 572 equals 3, 12 minus 5D, and the very next factor in that first term would be 12 plus 5D. And then you get plus 1110D squared. Again, I'm moving forward, and as I move forward, I'm not looking backwards. Again, I may have to look backwards later on if I make a mistake, all right? I'm starting to see something, as each step I take forward, the journey gets easier. So 572, and this would be 3 times, well, that's going to be difference of perfect squares. So 144 minus 25D squared plus 1110D squared. Well, I get, I still have to go forward, and forward to me would be, I guess I got to distribute something. Well, let's go for that. And again, I'm moving forward. 572. Let's see, 3 times 144 is 300, 120, and 12. And what do you get there? 432. Again, 3 times 100 is 300. 3 times 40 is 120, and 3 times 4 is 12. If you add that together, you would get 432. Minus 75D squared plus 1110D squared. Well, again, things appear to be getting a little bit easier. I want to keep moving. And how would I do that? Well, I'm going to take 432 from both sides. Write that down for you. Well, what would you get then if you took 432 from both sides? Looks like you get 140. All right, let's keep going. What would you get there? Minus 75 plus 110, that would be 35D squared, right? Again, we're moving forward. This is gone now. And things are getting really simple for me. And so what do you mean they're getting simple? This equation, it started out really crazy looking. Now I got something really simple. What do I get? D squared is equal to what? 35 and 140 goes in 4 times. 4 times 30 is 120. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 120 is going to be 140. So what's D equal to? Plus or minus 2. All right? Now, granted, a lot of people say, what are you going to do now? Well, if you forget, you want to go back and read it. But before I do that, I want to make sure that they got that. All right? Now, granted, someone says, oh, they didn't show the work. You're right about that. They didn't show the work. I just did the work for you, though. And by not showing your work, you might say, well, I couldn't have done that. That's the whole point of learning, is you want to be able to do that. All right? Was it tough getting there? Yeah, it was kind of tough. I had to take a few steps to get there, but we did get there. So now someone says, I don't even know what the question is anymore. And that's not the question. I can erase that. That wasn't the question. I'll erase that. That's not the question, I'll erase that. And that's not the question, I'll erase that. All right? So the question is, what do they want to know? Well, let's take a look at it. Oh, find the numbers. Well, you know what? I think we can do it. We know what the numbers are. All right? So I got to figure out what x is. All right? So how do I do that? Well, I write down the d. Let's do d as 2 first. That's a common difference, by the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this equation here to figure out what the first term of the sequence is. And what would you get? Well, if d is 2, you would get 12 minus 10, which is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So it's going to be a first sequence, easy to write down. Go up by 2, 3. Go up by 2, 5. Go up by 2, 7. Go up by 2, 9. Go up by 2, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. One more term to go, 11. All right? We'll look at the key later. I want to do d equals minus 2, though. How do you do that? Again, you're going back to this to figure out what the first term is. Well, that's going to be 12 plus 10, which is going to be what? 22. And 22 divided by 2 is going to be 11. Down 2. If you go down 2, what do you get? 9. Down 2. 7. Down 2. 5. Down 2. 3. Down 2. 1. All right? So the question is, find the numbers. Well, you know what? Both of them give the same numbers. What are the numbers going to be? Let's write this down. The numbers are as follows. It's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. That's the numbers. All right, let's look at the key, see how we did. And yeah, and they say that 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. We did okay. Now, I think the toughest part of this problem over here was the simplification process. It is so important that those skills are acquired, though. All right? Let me just remind you, if you've been paying attention this long, my name. And again, for those students or teachers that want to reach out to me, my email address is Bannon. That's B as in boy, the @ symbol, NNON.US. And again, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure if I'll be overwhelmed with questions, but generally speaking, if I'm not overwhelmed with questions, I will try to respond to you. But if I can't, I can't. But I'll try to do the best to reach back if you have something to tell me. Furthermore, if you find any errors in my work, it would be nice if you inform me of that. And again, I would certainly give you credit within the notes if that's the case. Thank you.